when I was designing this workshop, and I was thinking of how to have a closing statement. So all of a sudden, Dr. Asma Ibrahim came to my mind that we should have a closing of this workshop by introducing a very interesting work that she's doing, the State Bank of Pakistan's Money Museum. So I thought we can have a visual journey of the evolution of money for the last 2000 years, basically. So that was the idea, and I would encourage every one of you, if you have not visited the museum, it's an amazing piece of work and art. It shows, when you see that, you will see how money has been evolving from those beads, shells, cowries, then it goes to coins, and the way the coinage changes, and the scripture and the symbols and icons on those coins goes into the paper money and electronic money and the like plastic money, and now there is digital money, and then I don't know what money will be in the future. But it's an amazing work. So let me just introduce Dr. Asma Ibrahim. She's the founder and director of Money Museum and Art Gallery at the State Bank of Pakistan. Dr. Ibrahim has a postdoctorate from University of Wisconsin-Madison. She has served in the Department of Archaeology and Museum as curator and director at the National Museum of Pakistan. Dr. Ibrahim has carried out several excavations in Sindh and Balochistan and has done collaborative work for many international TV channels such as BBC, ZDF, CNN, Discovery, and HBO. She has authored many books, including two course books and several research articles. I also had the opportunity a few years back to visit Bhambor with her to do some, not to do excavation work, but to go and visit with their teams, the Italian archaeologists, the German archaeologists they were visiting. So I had the opportunity to hang out with them in a very historic place in Bhambor, and we were able to gather some artifacts from those places. You can go and visit these places. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Asma Ibrahim to come and present a wonderful speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Numan, for such a generous introduction. When I was invited for this talk, so I was thinking that how to make it interesting, because I realized that I will be at the end of the day, and to keep the attention of everybody, it's a tough job. So I tried to be as visual as I can, and the other fact which I was realizing that because you people are not archaeologists or numismatists, so I should keep it as simple as I can. So like Numan said, that we have established a museum at the State Bank of Pakistan. The very objective to establish this museum was to teach people, or like you people are discussing today, that how to teach financial inclusiveness. So the State Bank wanted to teach people the history of the money and the role of the State Bank in Pakistan and in finances, and make it as simple and welcoming to the students and to the public, so that a soft image of State Bank has been created. So this was the thing which I kept in mind. Although they planned for a small museum, but because I'm a numismatist and I did my doctorate in coins, so I couldn't resist. Like today I couldn't resist, but you can cut me if you feel that I'm going too long. Because it's my passion, so I just didn't know what to omit and what to keep. So that's the problem with us, the people who have a subject as a passion. So starting from it, I won't waste much time, because it's a very, very interesting thing, and I hope you also find it interesting, that what I'm going to talk about is journey of money from 2500 BC basically, but actually it is 20,000 years since the humans, the Neolithic time period, the humans evolved. The moment they were the first thing they paid attention was to exchange the finances. So it's very surprising for you that how old we are dealing in finances, but the ways and means have been changed over the years. So how, when, and why money was evolved? What was the need that humans thought that we should have coinage, we should have money? Why? You know, this is the basic question. Well, we were there, we were eating, we were moving around and all that, but why we came with this thing that we need So there are three basic things: coinage, banking, and monetary system, which evolved after the coinage. In the beginning, there was a barter. Barter system is the exchange of goods and service. And then a barter required a double coincidences of wants for a transaction to take place. You know, you give one thing and you get another thing. The frustrations associated with barter led people to create money. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of traveling involved. People used to take one huge thing, object to other place and then get it exchanged, and sometimes they were not happy what they were getting in exchange. You see, they're giving one thing and getting the other thing. That is one thing. Then traveling, and traveling was not easy those days. Financial and commercial activities in India for millions of years was carried on the system of barter. We already discussed that. And mark of the ownership come into existence as a sign of exchange and prestige value. So this is the basic thing from the very beginning, that why we evolved all these finances system, because from the very beginning you will see that it was prestige and the value for humans. And how it has evolved over the years, you will see this. So during Harappan period in Indus Valley, trading with Egypt, Mesopotamia could not manage the barter system well. Although we had the ships and we had the other traveling means, but it was very, very difficult for people to carry on this barter system. And Harappan period was, of course, 2500 BC, if some of you might not know. Over time, many different items have served as money. To serve as money, an item must be scarce. That is the basic thing. You might know, I mean, it might still be the same. I don't know, but I don't know much about financial thing. But initially, they kept it very scarce so that it is valuable. In addition, it must be portable, durable, divisible, familiar, uniform, acceptable, and stable in value. These were the few factors which created the money. And why money? It is anything that is widely used for making payments and accounting for debts and credits. And then it has certain specific functions. You know that it's unit of account, common measure of value, medium of exchange, means of payment, standard for deferred payment, store of value. And then general functions. It's a liquid asset, framework of market allocative system. You all know it better than me. Origin of money comes from the Latin word moneta. Juno, Hera, Moneta was the deity that protected and oversaw finances in the early days of Rome. And mythology tells us that Zeus punished Hera by tying her between the earth and sky with a golden chain. Hera broke the chain, and all the gold found on earth originates from fragments of that chain which fell from the sky and became humans' mon or money. So that's one thing, and we all believe on mythology. Okay, the earliest form of money was this cowrie shell. And this, you can see this number, it is kept in the museum. It's a very precious thing. We give accession number to a thing which is very, very important. So you can imagine how important it is. So there are indications that the use of shell jewelry in the form of strung beads may date all the way back to 100,000 BC. And we do find these in 100,000 BC excavations in Africa. And African beads are found in Japan and in Burma. So these are some things which are very, very interesting, that how far they were traveling with these kind of money. And some people don't believe it, of course. And then historians argue that the shells, particularly cowrie shells, are the earliest form of money. Well, some don't argue with, some don't agree with that. And cowrie shells were, we have proof that cowrie shells were used as money in China. So what were the early forms of money? Cow, for example, in Europe and India, the cow stood as the higher unit of barter. For smaller purchases, they were using shell, beads, knives, and bars of copper or iron. And then discovery of precious metals carried the evolution of coinage a stage further. For the barter unit was substituted its value in metal, usually gold. Salt and spices, of course, they were very important. From about 550 BC, accepting salt was synonymous with being paid. This was the origin of the term salary, which we get nowadays. Then pepper also served as commodity money beginning a few hundred years BC. In 408 AD, Alaric I demanded 3,000 pounds of pepper as a ransom for Rome. As dear as pepper, you know, is a French saying. In England, a minimum rent is referred to as a peppercorn rent. So this all came from this. And then here you can see a prehistoric kauri made of bone. When they were not getting kauri shells, they were making these kauris from the bone. So this is very interesting fact, that the kauri was universal money. Like we have a credit card nowadays, and there you can see the rice. Here are some very interesting coins which are still used in Yap Island. These are huge limestone rocks formed into coins. And some of actually you can find this coin in my museum also. And some of these coins were 9 to 12 feet in diameter and weighed several tons. And just to show their status symbol, they were kept outside the houses, and they're still kept outside of these houses. And they were rolled over just to carry from one place to another place. So commodity money, there is another kind of money which is called commodity money, that is before the coinage. Many early forms of money were items which were useful in their intrinsic value as well as their monetary properties. And these are known as commodity money. Iron nails, pigs, whale teeth, bread, spices. These are some kind of commodity money. And Okpo, Manila for bracelet was an early form of money in Nigeria. Here you see the Katanga cross was an archaic form of money from West Africa. And then several other things which were used as money. And in several parts of Africa, they are still used as money. Then come different weight standards. Here you can see several photographs where we have different weight standards, and I will show you how these weight standards came to be the denomination for the first coinage. There on the extreme left, second photograph, you can see the decimal weights from Indus Valley, that is 2500 BC, and how advanced they were during that time period. Then why the barter system changed into the money, and like I discussed before. And this is one of the cuneiform tablet which is telling us about that how the valuables were deposited for safekeeping and in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and Greece. So you can see the role of the religious places from the very beginning. They were serving as banks. And this is very interesting that how temples and other religious people exploit the money. Here comes the cowrie shell, different kinds of cowrie shells which are used as money, and then copper tablet from Harappa with raised script. So we have a theory, as you might know that Indus script is not yet deciphered, but we have a theory that these bronze seals were used as money because they are all equal in size and weight. So, but we cannot prove it unless we decipher this language. But we archaeologists are sure that they were used as money, and they are the earliest form of money, and we are proud to have them in our Indus Valley of Pakistan. Okay, then come the first standard or denomination for our coinage, which is called ganja seed. This is actually rati seeds, rati tola masha, and this is grown on tree, and this is still grown on trees in India and Pakistan. And these seeds are all equal in size and weight, and they were all used for our first coinage, that is Panchma coinage in 600 BC. And these are some bronze seals and their writing on it, which I was telling you about, that they are still not deciphered. On the left, you can see the chart from Aladino. Aladino is a site in Malir, Karachi, and where we have done excavations. And from 3000 BC, we have found these decimal weights. And then the other one is from Mohenjo-daro. So you can imagine that how advanced we were in about 3000 BC. Mohenjo-daro is later than Aladino site, by the way. So Aladino is still in Malir. When you go, you can see that site. So these are the Panchma coins I was telling you about. The denominations of rati seed was used for these coins. And they were actually the coins, the metal punch according to the required weight. Like if you want to have a satamana, you have 100 rati seeds equal to this. This is called satamana, this coinage. Initially, they were all plain, but then later on, they introduced these symbols. And because of these symbols, we can recognize that whose coinage it is. These were not die struck. Actually, they were just, the metal was just punched accordingly. But at the same time, in Texila, we were having coinage which were made by die. And it is very, very interesting that just before, we think that the Greeks were who introduced the technique, but we were having that technique here in Pakistan, Texila. and they had swastika and bodhi tree on there in the 4th century BC, and with equal size and weight. So this is amazing. Here you can see some symbols, and because of these symbols, we recognize that whose coinage were these. And these are the lumps of silver out of which the coins were made. This is discovered from Aladino. So major finds come from Texla, Charsadda, and Bajaur in northern Pakistan, and from Pradesh, Jalalabad, and Kabuk in Afghanistan. Afghanistan was very much advanced. They were side by side from India and Pakistan, and they had the punch mark coins like our coinage here. And these were double the size of weight of the Persian siklos. And it was silver during Achaemenian period. So Achaemenians also had coinage in 600 BC. So this has to be worked a little bit more, that although whether they were all at the same time or Persian or Afghanis were earlier than the Pakistan and India coinage, this is yet not ascertained, and we have to work more on that. Here you can see a symbol, which is of King Ashoka's symbol. And like I was telling you, because of these symbols, we can tell that whose coin is this. So these symbols mark the dynasty, ruler, mint, and perhaps the issue and the money. Here you have, again, the King Ashoka's coin. And these are the 6 symbols you find on this. So just because of these symbols, we can tell that this was King Ashoka's coin in 400 BC. And here is the denomination I was talking about. 1 Sattamanna is equal to 100 ratis, or 11 grams of pure silver. Karshapana was the small round coin, and then half Karshapana and others. So these are the coins which were made in Texla in 500 BC. And many of these copper coins had the similar animals, elephant and lion, and a Brahmi legend. Some of them are marked by recurrent use of distinctive symbols. And in Texla, we can immediately say that, okay, this coin is from Texla because it has elephant and bull. Then came the Greeks in this area in 327 BC, and Greeks changed the concept of the coinage totally. And they introduced a die technique, and you can see the work of art, the beautiful work of art they introduced. On the obverse, they had bust of the king. This is Alexander's bust, actually. And on the reverse, they used to have the deity of the city from where the ruler used to belong to. So this completely changed the concept and the making of coinage in the Indian subcontinent during the Mauryan time period. Here you can see the beauty of the coinage. I mean, they're such small coins, but the artwork is so beautiful. So one of my chapters in my thesis is about the artwork. And initially, they just were writing Greek. So on the left, you can see Demetrios and Basilios is the name of the ruler. But later on, they introduced Kharoshthi just to be to get familiarized with the local people. So they didn't want to offend the local people here. So initially, they copied the form and weight standard of the square copper coin of Texla, which I showed you. Then they added a Brahmi legend, and then later on, Kharoshthi. Initially, they were issuing coinage in the Attic standard, which was a Greek standard, weight standard. But because of this weight standard, we can make out that they were struck in Afghanistan. And in Pakistan, they used to struck coins in Draham weight standard, which was a Persian weight standard. And bilingual Greek and Kharoshthi coins were introduced in this area. And then they also retained their Greek tradition of fine portraiture. And this is another thing, that because of these portraits, we can make out that these were the early days of the Greeks or the later days, because the artists they brought in were old and then they died down, and they trained the local artists in their portraits, but they couldn't do that good job. And this is a deity Athena, which I was telling, and in the round circle, you can see Kharoshthi. Then these are very interesting coins with elephant and bull, and we can immediately tell that these coins were made in India, in Sindh, because of the bull and the elephant. And we have, like I have discovered around 35 rulers of Greek and their descendants, who on the basis of just these writings and in elephants. And so, you know, there were 34 descendants of Alexander who were ruling in Sindh and Balochistan even after Alexander left. So this is very interesting history. It's nowhere written, and only on the basis of the coinage you can tell that they were ruling in this area. And then making of coin, this is the technique which was introduced by the Greeks, which we didn't know in Indo-Pak subcontinent before the Greeks came in this area. These were the equipments used for making a coin. Here you can see that there was much slave labor required, and which was very, very difficult to get it from Greece or Rome. So they started training the local people into this technique. And die struck technique was very, very sophisticated, and methods of Gupta, pre-Gupta period for gold, silver, copper, lead or bullion, alloy of copper and silver was there. So this was a very, very technical thing which was taught to the local by the Greeks. And this is the new dye technique which was introduced in the later days. And here you can see these holes. The metal was melted, and then that metal was poured into these holes. And these kind of lamps were taken out from these holes, and then they were stamped with the name of the king on the reverse and the deity or whatever symbol or legend they wanted to ascribe on the reverse. Then there are different type of dyes discovered. Then this is Byzantine dye, and the coin, Byzantine coin, and then Islamic dye. But very interesting thing is that the letter M, in the early days of Bambor, we have found coins with the letter M. So this shows the Byzantine influence in the early Islamic period at Bambor, and those coins were actually made for Arab governors of Multan. So you can see that how interesting and how important these facts are, and in deciphering these coins, you can rewrite the whole history. Then we have forgers, of course. From the very beginning, we have forgers in every kind of currency and in every kind of coinage, which we still see nowadays even. And State Bank continuously has to deal with that. But that is our job. As soon as we get a coin and people tell us, can you tell us, is it real or fake? So just on the basis of touching, we can tell this is a fake. And that's the first stage of deciphering or diagnosing a coin. Okay, then in 1st century BC, the Indo-Greeks were replaced by Indo-Scythians. They were continuously in war with Scythians, and a lot of people you might know that Scythians were the people they used to live on the horses. Although they were living on the horses and they were continuously on a move, but their coinage and their artwork is amazing and beautiful artwork they used to produce. You might see in the books, and I'll show you their coins also. Then came the Indo-Parthians. They established themselves in Gandhar and at the closing years of 1st century BC, and issued a distinctive coinage with square coppers based on the early Indo-Scythian pattern. So the transition was going on, they used to copy each other, and for some time they used to overstrike the same coinage so that not to offend the local people. This is a very, very interesting thing, that why they carry on with the old coinage for some time. That you will still see since we got the independence, we were overprinting the notes with British India notes with Hukumat-e-Pakistan. So this is a human factor which was going on from 600 BC up till now. And the unique thing about Indo-Pak subcontinent is that we don't miss a single year from 2500 up to present times in coinage. So you can see that how advanced our nation was and how advanced we people were. Then came Gandopharas, who has a very distinctive style of coinage. I will show you just now. Here you can see the Scythian coin on a horseback, King Azus, and maybe some of you can read at the bottom, AZOY, that's Azus, and the same deity which the Greeks were using, Athena, the deity of victory, and another coin of Scythians. This is again Azus coin, and here you can see the beauty of their coinage. Here is the Gandopharas. This is a sketch we made out of his coin, and how minute details are given on such a tiny coin. It's a very small coin, you can see, but the details they were doing, and the beautiful shalwar, the pants he's wearing, it's very, very interesting that how they were depicting all that. So Azus II, who was a Scythian ruler, he was succeeded by Gandopharas. Gandopharas was a Parthian, and even now when you go to Sindh, there is a place called Gundfars, and that is after the name of Gandopharas. And when we go from Sindh towards Hub, Lespela, there is a passage called Gundfars, from where we cross from Sindh towards Lespela. So he was ruling all this area, and he was a great king. And he was calling himself King of Kings. And only the rulers who were calling themselves King of Kings were the ones who actually conquered a large area of Indo-Pak subcontinent. So this proves that he conquered a large area. But like I told you, their history is not written. So just on the basis of coins, we actually rewrite their history. And he's showing so many deities: Nike, Pelaus, Zeus. All these were Greek deities. And then Shiva, of course, which was a Hindu deity. So you see how they were getting familiarized with the local people, and they were trying to be friendly with the local people by depicting their deities and their legends. And the jewelry Gandopharos is wearing is beautiful. The chain, necklace, and the earrings, all that. They were so particular about their details. And then we have the traces in Gandhara and Texla. You might have seen these coins in Texla Museum as well. And here you can see the denomination of the coins is tetradrachm. Tetradrachm was the big coin, and then hemidrachm and drachm. So this is the same weight standard they followed from Greek time period and the Persians. And the rulers, you see, there were three kings of Indo-Parthians: Gandopharos, Abdageses, and Sases. And there were few coins which were struck actually in Sindh and in the lower Indus Valley. They were called drachms, like I told you. Then we come to the 1st century AD when the Kushans were here. Kushans were actually like nowadays US superpower. They were actually the superpower of Indo-Pak subcontinent. And they had conquered a large area, and they had trading relations with other countries almost all over the world. And Vimarket Physis has introduced beautiful gold coins, which I will show you just now. And of course, they revived the old Silk Route. And Silk Route was very, very common. Nowadays, you might be hearing that they are trying to revive the Silk Route. So actually, the Kushans were the ones who introduced this Silk Route on full force. Here is the gold dinar of Vimarket Physis, one of the great rulers of Kushan, and there you see the other gold coin of Vimarket Physis. So very interesting factor of the coinage is the pantheon of the deities, like I told you about how cosmopolitan they were. Here you see the variety of the deities, so this shows their extent of rule. Nowadays, in global time period, you see through TV and all that, but at that time, they used to make sure that their coinage shows each and every area which they have conquered. Then the religion, of course. Religion was a very important part of the coinage, and they used to depict whatever religion they used to have in their legends. Legend is the writing, and here you can see the Buddha, which is this figure is Buddha actually. So this is depicting that he changed his religion as a Buddhist. So through the help of the coins, you can study each and every aspect of that time period. So this continued up to the 4th century. And here is the King Shiva with bull. So this shows that he was very, kind of liberal king. He was using King Shiva as well as Buddha. Then we have Chandragupta, which Gupta Empire is one of the golden time periods of Indian subcontinent. Here you can see Chandragupta on the horseback, that how beautifully he is depicted there. And he had his capital at Shakala, which is nowadays Sialkot. And he descended from Central Asia. Then comes the Sasanians. Sasanians were also art lovers, and you see how beautifully they are depicting their beautiful art. And the Parthian and the Kushan domains were superseded by Sasanians. They were, at that time, India and Pakistan was not just conquered at the same time. There were different spaces and places which were conquered on and off. And like Sasanians were continuously in war with Kushans, and then they were fighting with each other. Whenever they got the supremacy, they were introducing their own coins, and then they were introducing Kushano-Sasanians as well as, the joint collaborative coins. So we call it Kushano-Sasanians. Then 5th century, we see the Turkic tribes came from Central Asia, and they are called Hephthalite, which is white Huns. They invaded Sasanians and created a new kingdom. And by the end of the Ardashir's son, Shapur, we see the Sasanian Empire stretch from Euphrates River to Indus River, and once mighty king of Kushan devolved into the long reign of Shapur II. So you see how these things were going on in the Indian subcontinent. This was the platform for all these fights and struggles. Then Kushano-Sassanids, Indo-Sassanians were a branch of Sassanid Empire in 3rd and 4th century. They established their rule in Old Gandhara. Basically, they were not basically in Karachi or Sindh, but we do say that the stupa at Mohenjo-daro is Kushan stupa, but we haven't been able to prove it as yet. But basically, they were in Gandhara. And then we see the beautiful coinage of Huns. White Huns were one of the major races who ruled in this area, and Kushano-Sassanians. You can see the fire altar and the devotees at the site of the fire altars, which was a symbol of Sassanians. The Hun of, but it was a short time period that they conquered this area, and then they were thrown back. Here again, one more beautiful coin. This I'm showing you because I will show you how afterwards these coins were debased. You see, it is the same fire altar you see in the center, and how this has disfigured. And there you can see a human face, how badly disfigured it is when they become the Indo-Sassanians. The Indian artists were creating these coins. So you can see the substandard introduced into the coinage. And then Shahi kings of Kabul and Gandhara, which is 8th century AD. And according to Al-Biruni in 10th century, Kalan, a Brahmin minister, overthrew his master and took the crown of Kabul and founded the Turkic dynasty in the 9th century. We call it Shahis or Shahiyas, which was one of the great dynasties. And all these coins were issued anonymously in the name of Spalapati Deva, but we are not able to decipher them because they were all written in Sanskrit and this almost the same name. So this is a very, very difficult and tricky coinage time period we face. Here you can see the king, the beautiful face and the mustache and the jewelry, and Sanskrit is written around. And this here we end the pre-Islamic coinage, and when we come to the invasion of the Islam, and Islamic issues again changed the concept of the coinage totally. So here Ghaznavids are using the word adal, but they are using the Hindu Shahi coinage. And the weight standard was also the same. So then Mahmud of Ghazna invaded Lahore and struck small copper coins. They were the same in design and fabric. And then after Ghaznavids, Ghurids came in this area, and but they didn't take much interest in the coinage. But they, at the same time, they were showing nice silver coins, but fine in quality. Now we see that the horse and human figures are gone, and this has been taken place by calligraphy, because we were not supposed to use human figures. So after Ghaznavids, you will. In fact, these are the coins of Arab governors or Habarids from Bambor and Multan. And this is the coin from Mahmud of Ghazna. At the bottom, you can see the word written Mahmud. And this was all beautifully, now they were concentrating on calligraphy and not the human or horse figures. This is the map which is showing you how the extent of their rule, Qutbuddin Aibak, and then came the Al-Tutmash. And then gold statue of Muhammad bin Sam. He's the one who is trying to be quite friendly with the Hindu people. And he's imitating the coinage of Hindu kings of Kannauj to be popular among the new subjects. So you can imagine that how tricky the currency and the coinage issuance was from the very early days. And then comes the Al-Tutmash, and Al-Tutmash coinage is quite unique compared to his predecessors. And he is issuing coinage with the king riding on the horseback, which is also very, very unique and different, but it shows that how broad-minded he was, not a very typical Muslim. Then Razia Sultana, of course, all of you know that she also issued coins, and this is the first lady of Muslim time period. Although we had 4 ladies in Greek time period, which I didn't show you, but this was the first lady of Muslim time period, and she's riding Shiri Hamra, reverse. You can see the horse. And then comes Balban, Shiri Sultan Ghiyasuddin. You can see the typical titles of these people who were almost, half of it was Hindu and half of it was Muslim. Then Muslim Kaikabad, who was the last of these Turk rulers. So then comes the Khiljis. And Jalaluddin Firoz Khilji founded, the Khilji dynasty. Here we have one jitter. The billion coinage used to call jitter. Actually, when I was in the National Museum, a lot of people used to ask me that what was the rupee or the currency used to call at that time. So I paid special attention to write the name of the currency which was used at that time, though. So the copper billion coin was called jitter. And Tughlaqs, that how innovative they were, and they were the people. Tughlaqs were the people who innovated a lot of variety in their coinage. And fine calligraphy and number of denominations were introduced in his coinage. And gold dinar was about 202 grains compared to the 172 grains. So we say that if they are issuing perfect pure gold coin or perfect silver coins, so that shows their economy was very strong. So this means that Tughlaq's economy was very strong. We study economy on the basis of their coinage as well. Like nowadays, you see the coins are not of very good standard, so we can say that we are not going through a very strong economic period. So this is how we trace the history of economics throughout all these years with the help of their coinage and purification of their coinage. So Tughlaq had a very pure and very strong coinage that shows that his rule was very, very strong. Here you can see the beautiful calligraphy. And then Khilji's, Tughlaq's, and Sayyids dynasties, the extent of their rules. But you might find this interesting that how this area was actually was a platform for so many people coming and going and issuing currencies and experimenting. And then the power of Tughlaq, the Prince of Money, we call him, like I told you. So he introduced many metals also. And they say that every house was turned into a mint. There was so many coinage issuing by Tughlaq all the time. So this shows that how strong his economy and his economic circle was. So the requirement of the coinage was so much. This is the copper tanka of Sikandar Behlol. Then one of the very interesting factor I wanted to bring to your notice that he issued some forced currency, and this was written on his coinage that he who obeys the Sultan obeys the compassionate. So actually this was engraved on the coinage, which is very, very interesting fact. And this is the detail about this copper tanka, and this was actually issued and distributed among the people. And it is said that these worthless copper tanka piled up in the millions outside the royal treasury and remained there for hundreds of years as a testimony to Muhammad bin Tughlaq's folly and failed currency system in the later stages. And just because of this currency, they say that he was failed. Well, it's not proven, but we believe that. And then came the Sayyids after the Tughlaqs, and the Lodhis, just before the Mughal coinage. And then comes the Mughal in this area. We see that Babur succeeded in defeating in the Battle of Panipat, and Lodhis were defeated, and his son Humayun was a weak ruler, and we know that he was overthrown by Sher Shah Suri. And Akbar was one of the successful rulers. Coinage of Babur and Humayun, they are very, very interesting because they were mostly influenced by Afghanistan and the Central Asia. So you will see the beautiful coinage, but influenced by the Timurid rulers, and they were still following the Timurid tradition. And in the center there was a kalma, and with the name of the 4 caliphs on their sides. And reverse had the name of the king. Humayun and Akbar both had the same coinage. Some of the coins were issued outside India, but they were counter-struck by the devices which he counter-struck Shahabad coins. These are very nice coins, and actually I love these. These are called Shahrukhi coins. They are very, very beautiful and issued just for some time. So then came the Suris. You know that Sher Shah Suri was a great administrator and very innovative person. So same can be seen in his coinage. And he's writing the kalma, trace of the kalma, and then the name of the 4 caliphs on the verse, same like Akbar and Humayun were doing. And he's showing that Khaladullah Mulk. This shows that how pious he was. They used to show this thing also on their coins, that how pious they are, how honest they are, and how religious. So some of the coins of Sher Shah wears this Jahanpana. That means that the whole Jahan is under his pana. So he used to think that how great he is. The another coin, copper coin, used to be called Dam, and Rupiah was introduced during his time. The silver coin was called Rupiah. Here you can see some calligraphic details on his coins, and one very interesting thing is the Star of David. Here at the bottom you can see in his coin. So he's showing the Jew symbol as well. Then came the Akbar, the reign of Akbar. You know that Akbar was also another great ruler of Mughal dynasty, and he introduced many shapes and forms of the coinage, and beautiful silver coin, round and square coin. First time the square coin was introduced by Akbar. Here is the beautiful square coin. You know, they used to experiment in coinage when they were very settled and economically very strong. So this shows the state of their rule. Here you see the broad-mindedness of Akbar. He removed the kalma and he introduced his name as Allah Akbar. Deen-e-Ilahi, you know, Deen-e-Ilahi was introduced by Akbar, so that is depicted in his coinage as well, and which was a very, very bold step he took, and, you know, especially in Islamic rule or with the Muslim rulers. Again, his coin was called Dam, which was 14th part of a silver rupee. So there actually the weighing system and the denominations are also very, very interesting. But because of this time period, I had to. I mean, each and every dynasty require 1 hour of discussion, at least for me. I don't know. So here comes the coin. Then we have Jahangir. Again, you see the beautiful coinage by Jahangir. And he was the one who introduced zodiac coins as well. So he had 12 gold zodiac coins, which are also very, very rare and very interesting. And then he's a heavy coin of unit. 1000 mohr is also one of the world's heritage, and it's very rare coin which was introduced by Jahangir. And then comes Noor Jahan. She is the lady who was ruling actually Jahangir, and she had a great influence of Jahangir, and she has her name on the coinage, and this shows that how strong she was. Then Shah Jahan, the silver coin of Shah Jahan. Aurangzeb Alamgir, who was a very religious person in the whole Mughal dynasty. And among the normal coinage, they were using nazaras and nisars were also issues. So nisars and nazara or token were issued during special occasions. These were the coins which were issued by Mughal period, Mughal rulers very frequently. After the Mughals or during the Mughal time period, Nadir Shahi or Nadirs were continuously in war with the Mughals, and after some time they took over. And we have a beautiful variety of Durrani coins as well in the Indian subcontinent. Many people don't know about the fact that Durranis actually issued coins in Lahore and Sirhind, and then in Kashmir also, and in Sindh also. You can see the beautiful variety of his coinage. After Durranis, we have Sikh rulers in this area. The Sikhs were continuously in war with Durranis. Actually, this shows that how important this area was. They were continuously in war with each other to take over. And then you have beautiful coinage and the typical thing of the Sikh coinage is a leaf on their obverse. Every Sikh coin has a leaf on their obverse, and the same weight standard like Mughals they were following. And then we have Guru Nanak's token, which is very, very rare. Guru Nanak is sitting on the obverse. And then in the meantime, the princely states were getting very strong, and they were issuing their own coinage. So this shows the disintegration in the empire after the Mughal rules. So we have Hyderabad state, then we have Mysore, where Tipu Sultan was issuing his own coinage, and then we have Bahawalpur state, and many more small states. And then in 1786, Matthew Boulton designed coin stamping machine. So up till now, the coins were made with the help of the die, and then came the Britishers, and they introduced the machine. and British India coins were made by machine, and 3 presidencies were there, Bengal, Bombay, and Madras, and how the East India started issuing coinage. Initially, they were issuing coinage in collaboration with the princely states, and reverse had the name of the East India Company or King George, and obverse had the name of the princely states. And you see they took permission from Farrukhsiyar to issue coinage. A different British India coinage, and then the Crown took over the monetary system during British rule. You can see 3 pi is equal to 1 pi. Then comes the coins of Pakistan. After independence, for about 1 year, we were using the same coinage like British India. In 1948, we issued our own coinage, and here was one of the first coins of Pakistan. Bronze paisa with central piercing having inscription on either side. And then in 1961, the government decided to adopt the decimal system for its coinage. So it was in 1961 that the rupee was divided into 100 pesos. And then comes the stamps. So the stamps are a transitory period between coins and currency. And for 1 year, we were using the same stamps. So the reason why I brought in the stamps was that the stamps were used as money during war times. Here you can see the stamps of one of the states of India, Kathiawar. This was used as money. This we have in original in our museum. Then we have other princely states who were issuing wartime stamps, but they were cash coupons. So you can see how they were used as cash. You could just give this stamp and get anything of that amount. Hawala and hundi comes after the stamps. The hawala and hundi, which is illegal nowadays, I suppose I don't have much knowledge about it, but I heard. So this was legal during British time period, and here you can see one of the earliest of 1939. We have one from 1926 as well. And this was kind of a check. You could give anybody this check, and they could go anywhere in India and Pakistan and get the cash on the basis of this. Here you can see some of them are displayed in our museum in original. And then why the banknote? Then comes the banknote. You can see the transition from the very early stages up to the banknote, which was a paper money. So it was often known as a bill, paper money, or simply a note, a kind of a negotiable instrument, a promissory note made by a bank, payable to the bearer on demand, used as money. And this you will see that we still use this sentence that this is a promissory note, and the state bank would pay the holder, the bearer, this much amount. So actually we are responsible of paying that much amount no matter whatever it is. So how the origin of paper money happened? This was in China that Tang dynasty introduced the first ever paper currency, and they have a very interesting method of making this paper out of cotton. Collapse of Ming dynasty brought money to an end, and because there were a lot of fakes, and this was the reason that they had to stop this production. Everybody was making this note, so they had to stop this and then think of it again, that how to bring it with seal marks or with some security features. So this was the reason that they stopped producing that, but after the war, they again started producing it. So banking era in the Indian subcontinent started from very late, from the 18th century up to 1861. We see the Bank of Madras, Bank of Bengal was the first one, then came the Bank of Madras. And in 1861, the enactment of Paper Currency Act came in India for India paper currency. Then British India RBI came into being on 1st April 1935 in Calcutta, and the RBI was issuing these kind of currency notes. But initially for 1 year we were using the same currency notes with overprinting of Hukumat-e-Pakistan. Then we started issuing our own currency in 1948. Initially, De La Rue, the company from England, was printing money for us. Nasik was producing currency for us, but then the Nasik stopped it. They said that we cannot fulfill the demand. So then we went to De La Rue, and in 1952 or 53, I think our Pakistan Security Printing Press was established, and we started printing our own currency notes. And you can see the promise of I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of 2 rupees. You see on top, and then at the bottom, our own first currency note says that मैं हाँ इकरार करता हूँ कि अंदल मुतालबा हामिल हाज़ा को 5 रुपया सरकारी ख़जाना कराची से अदा करूँगा. तो ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ है कि why Karachi? Initially, I failed to understand because I'm not a banker, but I don't know why they were using Karachi, but then later on they stopped using Karachi. So this is a very interesting fact I noticed in here. You can see there's no Karachi. And then there are some very interesting religious slogans on the notes. Hasule Rizke Hilal Ibadat hai. Then Rizke Hilal and Ibadat hai. And there are many more of these kinds which I noticed on 1 rupee note. So they keep changing quietly. We don't know why, but it. So you see, money is based on the coming to preeminence of some commodity as payment. And oldest monetary basis was the agriculture capital, cattle and grain in ancient Mesopotamia and in Egypt. Currency could be an intricate piece of art as well, like I was telling you about the coinage. The same goes for the currency. Here you see the beautiful symbols, cultural symbols, religious symbols on the currency, beautiful portraits. So this is one type of depicting their own culture and religion as well. This is also one kind of note, shilling due to, it's a very interesting writing, so I thought that I must bring this to your notice as well. And then here is the currency note from Hyderabad, state of Hyderabad. It's a huge 1,000 rupees currency note. So the states were also, princely states were also issuing currency, like they were issuing coinage. And then comes the polymer banknotes. In 1988, we find this first polymer banknote from Australia, which is polymer is a plastic money, and a lot of countries are converting their currency to polymer notes. Here you see, we have displayed them in our gallery. They have special security features and durability. So there are many factors because of which they are being issued. So this is the end of the currency note. Once you spoil the currency note, it comes back to the state bank and we deface it, and then we just, I suppose we burn it, but I make different items out of it and keep it in our souvenir shop. And then you have a credit card, and then ATM, yeah, and that's it. And now we have telephone banking. So from a very primitive age, I bring you to the mobile banking. So I hope that I didn't bore you with this long journey of barter system and coinage. Thank you very much for being here and for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asma, for that tour de force, that amazing journey across millennia on the history of money. I was curious if you could say a little bit more. You already pointed out during your presentation on how money is both a status of wealth, right, from ancient times, right? And it also reflects certain cultural and political practices, right?
Yes, and religious.
And religious practices, because I think in the contemporary world we have come to see money as some kind of a neutral, abstract, medium, whereas what you have just said, shows that it's not that abstract, right? It has certain materiality and dimensions of its own.
A lot of thinking goes behind it, that what monument you're supposed to portray and what type of slogans, like I showed you on 1 rupee note. This is very interesting. So this is religious. Then cultural is the monuments we display on the currency notes, and then the patterns we give on the currency notes. So this is all culture and religion and art you still see. We actually think that they are the pieces of art as well. So many countries are very conscious about it, and they have their animals, flora, fauna, ladies on. So I have classified these currency notes on the basis of art as well. So it is still going on. That was the reason I wanted to show this, that how from very early ages they were depicting these symbols. And my thesis was on Indo-Greek coins. So I wrote one chapter on religion. One is economy of Greeks, and one is cultural and the deities, and then the portraits on the coins. So they show, if one ruler is ruling for a long time, you can see the young age, the middle age, and the old age. So I have classified them on the basis of that as well, because their history is not written and it's not available. So that is also one thing which you can see. And still, I feel that on many currency notes, you see their rulers and their queens from very early, like Queen Elizabeth. So yeah, this is still going on.
In this era of financial inclusion, digital financial services, if you were to imagine your museum 50 years from now, what do you think would be the artifacts of this digital financial inclusion era that you will be showing on a PowerPoint to an audience 50 years from now?
We have digital things in our museum, but mostly we try to keep the manual as well as digital things at the same time, so that the people have knowledge. I believe that when you come to a museum, you are like you don't know anything, you're an illiterate person, but when you go out of the museum, you should be knowing each and everything about that subject. It's a monetary museum, so you should know each and everything about the evolution of the monetary system. So that's what I've tried to do. And I think whatever the new things are coming up, like I just introduced selfie booth. And children really enjoy that selfie booth, that you can just email yourself or put it on the Facebook. So whatever new thing is coming, we are supposed to include that, because we want to keep the interest of the children and the new generation, which is very important. And the museum should be interactive. So there is a new kind of money which is called bit money, or I don't know. Bitcoin is coming. So I'm looking for it, and maybe we will be displaying that. So we have this thing in mind, that how to keep the interest of the public and how to introduce new things. It's not that you once come to the museum, why should you come again? Huh? So we need to keep you coming back, and we need to keep the interest. So that's what we try to do. And our museum is fully inclusive. It's friendly for blind, deaf and dumb, wheelchair accessible. And today only we had a photographic workshop for blind people. So I'm teaching them photography, and then they will be able to sell their stuff. So it's equally welcoming everyone in the museum, in my museum.